Hello everyone, it's Fairikin. This is part 2 of making my book Fairy. So if you want to know about my concept and what I'm basing this off of, go watch part 1. So without further ado, let's begin the face up and the body blushing. I start off by painting the markings she has on her face. The paint I'm using is amazing, but it is a little bit thick, making it difficult to accurately fill in small spaces like this. So I just ended up filling it in and then wiping away the excess paint with a Q-tip. Because this is acrylic paint, I had to use rubbing alcohol, but this also took off the Mr. Super Clear that I had already applied.
What a fool I am!
With the same paint, I fill in her lips a flat black. Much like applying real black lipstick, this was pretty finicky to get even. Operetta has a pretty deep bow to her lips too, so this made it a little bit harder. I did several passes on this. From here, I spray an initial coat of Mr. Super Clear and go on to the body blushing. I blushed her with orange in my concepts, and it looked pretty alright in my opinion, but the first layer on the physical doll looked kinda gross, if I'm honest. But I stuck it out and added 2 layers, and it ended up looking exactly how I wanted it to. I did use a little red pigment on her face. I also added highlights on the portions of her face that would hit light more prominently. Now I begin on her eyes. I sharpened a normal graphite mechanical pencil and got to work. I lay out the shapes first. I go back and forth with this to make sure that both sides are even. And like always, I paint in the full eye white. And I tried to do the eyebrows a few times. Because she doesn't really have hair, I wasn't sure what color to make them. I tried this mauve color at first, and with this sharp, almost 90s drag queen eyebrows, and I hated it. So I tried again with a dark brown pencil, and that was much better. I didn't like the thickness or the shape, so I tried once more, changed where the eyebrows themselves were located, and I like this a lot more. Now I start working on her iris. I know that I want her eyes to be brown, but as far as her facial expression goes, I wanted her to have a more knowledgeable look, I suppose. Like she knows something, but she's too smart to let on about it. Every time the color pencil stops building, I add another layer of my spray sealant, Mr. Super Clear. I kept adding layers of this terracotta color, but I had a difficulty building the color, so eventually I just lifted the pigment off the pencil with a wet paintbrush. I gave her shorter lashes than I usually go for, and on her lower lashes I actually placed them further down on the face than I would normally. From here, I just end up playing with the values from light to dark until I'm happy with everything. I have to say, I impressed myself with the eyelashes on this one. Lashes are pretty tricky to get right, and I think I did a pretty good job this time around. Because this is a book fairy, as it were, I would like to ask you if any of you enjoy reading as much as I do, and what your favorite book is. Personally, I really love Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I learned a lot about myself through reading that book in a weird way. It's great. Another one of my favorites is What's Eating Gilbert Grape. That one is so amazing. I recommend that book to anyone that has feelings. Honestly, it's so good. It's so good. I would love to have a nerdy book discussion with you guys in the comments. I think that would be so fun. Here I am cleaning up the black lines on her face with a black pencil instead of paint. Additionally, I added white highlights to make the black lines more defined. A lot of the time when I'm doing face-ups, I hyper-focus on the super detailed parts like the eyes, and kind of forget about the rest. I end up with imperfections and dust or even pencil shavings on the face because I sealed it without checking first. To conceal this mistake, I add beauty marks over those parts. At the very end, I add more blushing and a final coat of MSC. Now I add UV resin on the eyes and lips to give them a lifelike shine. And with that, her face-up is done. Now I left you on sort of a cliffhanger the last time with the wings, so let's finally attach those. Like always, I heat up a needle tool and melt a hole in her back, and then screw them on through the loops of wire I made. As a last couple of details, I cured beads of resin onto the bodice of her dress and wrapped wires around her feet for shoes. I saw Enchantarium do this a little while ago, and I freaking loved it, so I added that in my design. And with that, she's done! This was kind of a spur-of-the-moment project. It took me about 2 weeks to complete, and in all honesty, there's not a huge concept or backstory behind it. I just had several influences that inspired me to create a book-themed fairy. There's not any specific literary references in her design, other than the white roses and obviously the book pages. She's just kind of a representation of literature, I guess? I don't know. I mean, what even is a barbecue fairy? Let's be honest, I'm insane. But all in all, I'm really happy with her design. It felt really nice to make a character of my own. I'll be honest, making other people's characters, while fun, does kind of limit me a little bit. I do enjoy it, but I also really like being free with my concepts and designs. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. If you could leave a like and a comment, that would help me out a ton. You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter, and I also have a little Discord server if you want to join that. You can find everything in the description box below. Thank you all for joining me. I know these are kind of difficult times, everything's a little bit weird and a little bit sad, but I want you to know that if you're having negative feelings, that's okay. It's okay to feel like that. Those feelings kind of suck. It's alright to feel bad sometimes. That doesn't make you worth any less. Thank you for joining me in this. Bye!